Ready? Alright, let's see if I can make let's see if I can make some names up.
One more chat with Lou, but he'll be here in a minute.
Who?
Ed's just in the toilet, I think.
Oh, is he? Alright, well, wait for it to come. Right, so we've got Lauren. We've got Joe, which is area sales manager. Regional sales manager. We've got James, official title is
National Sales Manager for Distribution.
And we've got Simon.
Sales Director.
Yay, we've got the names right.
There you go.
Not really bothered about your titles, we've got your names right. So,
Yeah.
we've got Simon as well from Vent-Axia today. So I'll hand over to James and...
Cool. Cheers, Kenny. Afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'm just going to dive into a little bit, about Vent-Axia as a brand. I'm sure most of you have, dealt with Vent-Axia in some capacity previously. So first things first, this year we're celebrating our 90-year anniversary. It was founded in 1936. Some of you may or may not know we're part of the Volution Group, which is a wider group which owns multiple ventilation companies across the globe, quite big in Australasia, Scandinavia, some in Europe as well. And then there's 3 UK ventilation companies in the UK, and we're part of the Volution Group. We've got 3 UK manufacturing facilities, so we've got a factory in Crawley, Reading and Dudley, and we manufacture all of our products in the UK. And our purpose is healthy indoor air to deliver it sustainably. So a big focus around sustainability is a key factor. And then last year, we're proud winners of the Best Ventilation Brand of the Year, and that was the Electrical Wholesale Awards. So a little bit about VA, what we do. So we operate into 4 different markets. We'll start with the new build resi market. So we've got a team of new build spec managers that will go out to building developers to grow whole house heat recovery systems, specify with the developer, focus on DMEV systems, full ducting solutions, and their job is to go out, get specified with the building developer, with the likes of Barrett's, Taylor Wimpey, and to get specified. And then we've got the social housing team, which Simon runs. Now he's got a team of regional sales managers who again go out to target local authorities, councils, housing associations, looking at planned and reactive maintenance, condensation and mould issues, and private landlord support as well. Then we've got a commercial industrial team again, which is a team of regional sales managers who report into another sales director who go out and specify commercial industrial products, whether this be T-series fans that you'll probably be familiar with in the pubs, mixed flow fans, commercial heat recovery systems, axial and acoustic fans, and their job is to go out and specify on these with larger M&E contractors, working with architects as well, and some HVAC specialists as well. And then you've got finally the team that I run, the private residential team, which focus on energy efficient ventilation, low noise systems, DMEV systems, premium fans, effectively selling into the wholesale channel. And this is what we call our user chooser type products that you'll be familiar with like our silent fans and bits like that. So why we ventilate, I'm sure most of you know why we ventilate, but I'm just going to dip into a few reasons why it's important. Now, first things first, has anyone got an idea of how much does the average person produce in terms of moisture a day? Any ideas?
Too much.
Anyone got a guesstimate with a...
15 litres.
You're not far away, a little bit lower than that, but it's 8 to 12 litres. So, so it's a lot of moisture, and obviously we're producing that every day. You imagine a family of 4. So modern homes generate a huge amount of moisture every single day, and whether this be cooking, cleaning, showers, all those sorts of things obviously create moisture in the home, and if we don't ventilate properly, this can lead to condensation and mould. You've also got then to improve indoor air quality. Obviously, there's a lot of pollutants in the home touching when we're, cleaning, aerosols that we spray in the bathrooms, airborne contaminants. Lots of people with regards to, suffer with hay fever, allergies, asthma. If we improve the indoor air quality, obviously you improve people's when they've got health conditions like asthma and hay fever as well. And then finally, protect the building. Obviously, if you mould and damp issues can obviously affect the building fabric, and this is obviously something that we need to make sure doesn't happen. So it's important to ventilate to make sure that we prevent mould growth and any damage. And then finally, to meet the building regs, right? So ventilation systems help comply with Part F, which is obviously the building regulations that hopefully all of you guys are familiar with. And so why is it crucial in modern homes today? Well, we're making properties a lot more airtight, right? Modern homes are very airtight, very well insulated, which is great for energy saving, but means less natural ventilation. So as a result, we're having to ventilate more. Because what we don't want is obviously these pollutants being trapped inside the property. So we need to make sure that we're ventilating more efficiently. Enhanced insulation, less natural airflow, increasing condensation risk. And then obviously this is increased moisture levels is what we touched on already. Creating lots of moisture can then lead to mould and condensation issues. So we don't want mould properties, and you'll probably be aware of issues over the last few years, especially with regards to in the social housing market. There was a death that was linked to a boy who lived in a social housing property a few years ago, which has highlighted, the issues that there are in the UK, which we'll come on to a little bit later. And then again, stricter building regulations. So the regulations have changed over the last few years. The continuous trickle rates have gone up. So we've increased the trickle rates in the property, which we'll also come on to later when we talk to Simon when he runs through the social housing fans, and he can come on to that. So I'll just run through some of the domestic ventilation systems that we use and some of the fans that obviously we use. The most familiar that you guys will be aware of is intermittent fans. Simple on and off ventilation that is, in the bathroom, in the kitchen, normally triggered via, a timer, humidity sensor, PIR sensor, and they will just be on-off systems. Most of you will be familiar with DMEV, which stands for Decentralised Mechanical Extract Ventilation. This is what we install into new build properties where we're making properties more airtight. A continuous running system is required. And then again, they've got smart sensor controls as well. So when it comes to having humidity sensors, indoor air quality sensors as well, it adjusts the airflow to control relative humidity in the property. We've then got mechanical extract ventilation, also known as multi-vents. So this is a multi-extract point. You might use these in apartments, you might use these in kind of changing rooms, and you might have 3 different extract points all going back to one unit as like an inline fan, and then you obviously extract through one point out to an external grill. You've then got mechanical ventilation with heat recovery, MVHR. Obviously this is MVHR is the most energy efficient. You're obviously conserving the heat in your home. What you don't want to be doing is when you're extracting air, obviously you're paying to heat that up, which everyone's more aware of over the last few years. So extracting it back to a central unit, and what that does, it recovers the heat, and then you can supply fresh air into your habitable rooms, and it effectively means that you stop obviously extracting all of that and losing the heat from the property. So that's a central system, and then we also do a decentralised system, which is a DMVHR unit, also known as single room heat recovery. So you'd have a single room heat recovery units where you've got kind of a heat cell in the middle, and you install it into you can install them into habitable rooms or bathrooms, and what you'll have is a heat cell in the middle, and one of the units that we have will extract for 90 seconds, and you'll have 2 units, and then they'll turn, so they'll alternate. So one supplies, one extracts, and then it keeps the heat cell in the middle, and as it supplies the air, it keeps all the heat in. So when you're supplying that fresh air back into the property, you're retaining the heat. So that's a single room heat recovery unit. And then last but not least, we've got PIV. Is anyone aware of PIV? So PIV stands for positive input ventilation, and it's been around since the 70s, and it's to help reduce condensation and improve indoor air quality. And it's an easy retrofit solution that will sit in your loft space and just trickles fresh air into the property to help reduce condensation and mould. So what we're going to touch on today is a few different trends that we've seen in the market over the last few years, and just diverge into a couple of the products that we've got to kind of run through in the marketplace to help you tackle these. So first things first, continuous running fans. So as we mentioned earlier, DMEV fans are on the rise. The reason being obviously airtight properties means that we need to provide continuous running ventilation. So I don't know about you guys in the branches, are you seeing a rise within continuous running fans being asked for? Yeah. And that'll be driven partly by regulation, because in obviously new build homes, they've been installing those for a number of years now, social housing. And what you'll notice is obviously the replacement market now, you'll start to see a trend towards that you'll have more and more replacement stuff for continuous running fans. Positive input ventilation. Now, we touched on the mould and damp issues over the last few years with regard to that boy who passed away, which was first death in the UK that was linked to mould issues. Now, because of that, we've seen a huge growth in the PIV market. This is a fan that's been around since the 70s. Market size was around 30,000 units for up until probably 2022, and since then it's tripled in size. So we'll come on to that a little bit later. And then AWAB's law. Is anyone aware of AWAB's law? So AWAB's law has been introduced into social housing and is a law that effectively covers your tenants living in social housing properties with timeframes for the housing provider to adhere to if they've got any issues around mould and condensation issues. So Simon will come on to that a little bit later, because that affects kind of the social housing market, and we'll talk about how some of our products can obviously help these issues. So why DMEV fans over intermittent? So 24/7 extraction, you've got a continuous ventilation, obviously to help improve indoor air quality. This is trickling along at a lot lower speed, so you're probably thinking energy efficiency wise it's going to cost you more to run. Well, you'd be wrong. It's cheaper to run than traditional systems because it's trickling along, and when it boosts, it only boosts to relative humidity level, so it's not having to boost to a full boost. It just controls to the level of humidity. So say if you've got 80% relative humidity, the fan would only increase to 80%, so it's not boosting to a full boost. You've got quiet operation because obviously it's operating all the time. The trickle rates are a lot lower, so you've not got a fan boosting at 20 litres a second. You might have it trickling along at 8 litres a second, so obviously it's a lot more quiet to operate. You've got low maintenance, so filterless designs make upkeep really simple for you guys. There's not a lot of upkeep that you have to do. And then easy installation as well, with regards to, you know, whole house systems. You have to install ducting, bits like that. With DMEV fans, you put 3 fans in, put them through the wall. It's a lot quicker to fit than your larger systems and running duct runs in the property. And then fully compliant, so DMEV, as we touched on, is fully meets system 3 requirements in the building regs, which is based on your trickle rates in the property. So Pure Air Cleanse, Simon, my lovely assistant over there. This is our brand new product that we've recently brought to market, which is our new DMEV fan. We've previously, our first DMEV fan that we brought to market was in the new build market, and we've adapted this fan that we've brought to the private domestic market now for you guys. So why the Pure Air Cleanse? So it's got a variable speed and smart control, so it can go 5 to 26 litres a second. It has a smart sense boost, so we've got 3 different models. You've got continuous running with timer, you've got continuous running with humidity, and then you've got continuous running with humidity and an indoor air quality sensor. Now, the indoor air quality sensor, people also call it odour sensor. We've also had it called the poo fan because it does do your unpleasant odours, but it's meant for, you know, you can use it in the kitchen for cooking odours. It's also, you know, aerosols, all that stuff that you spray in the bathroom that you don't want to be breathing into your lungs. That fan will boost until the indoor air quality is reduced to a normal level. We've also got a comfort delay and comfort control system, which means the fan doesn't boost until you're in and out of the bathroom, which can be set up on the fan. You've got high efficiency and low running costs. So this is highly rated on SAP, so it's great for energy efficiency. This will cost you around £2 a year to run, which is obviously really good, considering obviously the energy efficiency around properties now being a key compliance with regards to, you know, some of you might be familiar with the Warmer Homes Grant that the government are rolling out. So this fan will be compliant within the Warmer Homes Grant as well because of its SAP rating. Wet room safe and compliant, it's IPX5 rated, so applicable for zones 1, 2, 3 and 4. And it's also got a back pressure detection as well, so if you fit it into a high-rise property, you can set it for a back pressure detection, so if it's a windy day, the fan will adjust accordingly, and you can set it up to be whether it's ducted or whether it's going to be installed straight through a wall as well. So a couple of nice features there that you wouldn't get on your bog standard 4-inch fan. And then easy installation, which is the key thing for you guys. Compact 56mm spigot. When we're talking to contractors, they want the spigot to be as short as possible. 2 cable entry options. And then we've got, obviously, we touched on the 3 models as well. So this is just to give you a quick comparison. So obviously you've got the timer model there, which is continuous with timer. Ideal use, kind of the basic residential market. You've got the humidity and timer, which has got the smart boost. So I touched on, you know, clearing relative humidity levels. This fan will boost accordingly to how much relative humidity you've got in the property, right? So it'll know the normal level in your bathroom. As soon as your relative humidity levels rise from whether it be cooking, whether it be you having a shower, the fan speed will increase, and Simon will demonstrate later the smart boost, how it works on one of his fans, and it's the same humidity sensor that goes into that. So there's a nice demo we can show you there. And then we've got the indoor air quality sensor model there as well. So this is for your whole house, you know, indoor air quality focus, more of your premium end of the market, because obviously it does come at a slightly higher price point there as well. So damp and mouldy homes. So as we touched on, in 2020, there was a tragic catalyst for driving, made aware of how bad the housing stock in the UK was. And that was the death of a two-year-old boy, Awab Isaac, who lived in a Rochdale social housing property. And this highlighted the dangers of living with damp and mould. Awab's law was introduced, which I touched on earlier, which now requires obviously landlords to fix damp and mould issues promptly. And BBC Panorama actually ran a documentary, I think it was earlier, I think it was end of last year, I think it was. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but it was effectively, the scale of the issue was that there was over 4.5 million people live in social housing, but roughly every 30 seconds a complaint is logged with regards to, you know, damp and mouldy homes. So this problem also affects private domestic. Obviously it doesn't, you can get damp and mouldy homes whether you live in a social housing property or whether you live in a private property. It doesn't discriminate. So this issue is a national problem, and it only highlighted to people who own their own homes once they see obviously the dangers of damp and mould, where you've got people who might use anti-mould paint every couple of years, touching it up. Karcher Wet Vacs, the best-selling product of Karcher, and that's because people are window vacuuming their windows, getting rid of condensation every single day. So this is a big issue nationally. And then the housing stock challenge. So UK has some of the oldest stock in Europe. 3 million tenants in England live in homes that don't meet decent home standards. So this is something that needs to be changed. And obviously, when Awab Isaac passed away, this was coming out of COVID time. So obviously, social housing work wasn't being done in the social housing properties. So it had got to a worse state than it's ever been in before. So PIV. So positive input ventilation, or PIV, was developed in the 1970s to deal with condensation and mould issues in homes. It works by continuously circulating air throughout the property and is a perfect retrofit solution. So it effectively reduces mould, damp and condensation. And how this works is your PIV here, so this is, imagine your home. This sits in your loft space, pulls your fresh air in from your loft space. You've got 2 filters either side where it draws in your fresh air, and it pumps your filtered air into your property, and you install it centrally to the property as possible, and you've got 1 diffuser where it distributes the fresh air, introducing trickle ventilation straight into the property, and the idea is that it dilutes and pushes that stale air out of the property, right? So the importance of ventilation. Mould is like a plant. If without moisture it can't grow, so ventilation is the solution. We need to remove the excess humidity, and then obviously you stop condensation and then mould forming in its tracks. So a PIV unit is the perfect answer. A simple analogy of how it works: you've got a glass of squash, for example. You've got a tap that's dripping fresh water into the glass of squash. Over 24 hours, if you came back to it, the glass of squash would have slowly turned into water. Air works in the exact same way. When you've got moisture in the air, you dilute that stale, unhealthy air with fresh, dry, clean air, and you get rid of your relative humidity levels. And as a result, obviously, you don't have condensation forming in the property. So the unit's feature and benefits. So you don't need to be a ventilation specialist by any means to install one of these units. We've got a 3-button digital display, so once you put power to it, you can wire it straight off the lighting circuit in the loft, which is obviously incredibly easy. You've got 2 filters, so you've got a G4 filter which it comes with, which captures pollen, fog, coarse dust particles. And then you've also got an F7 filter, so that will also remove all pollen from the air. So if you suffer with hay fever, it's always worthwhile upgrading to the F7 filters, because you'll notice obviously a big difference, you know, in the spring and summertime when hay fever becomes an issue. And then you've got a built-in heater, so the most popular unit, you're trickling fresh air in, obviously throughout the winter months is when you're drying clothes, you've got a big condensation and mould issue. Having that 500 watt internal heater, it's just a pulse heater, so it's not going to heat your house up by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just going to, temper the air that you're pumping into the property. You've got the discrete 200mm diffuser, and that's probably the hardest part of the install. Obviously coring your hole in your landing ceiling, which is essential to the stairwell as possible. Once you've done that and you've fitted the diffuser, that's the hardest part done. Everything comes in the box, so you connect the ducts in, you've got everything to connect it up. The PIV filters just slip on to the edge, and then you've got 2 install methods. You can either hang the unit by an easy grip handle, which you can suspend from the loft, or you've got fully adjustable legs, which obviously you can fit onto the ceiling joist as well. So you've got 2 install options there as well. So the opportunity, so here we've got a kind of Google Trends, and this just goes to show you the opportunity that, from obviously everything that happened in when that poor boy Awab Isaac passed away, and the awareness that suddenly the UK market suddenly woke up and everybody started looking at PIV as a solution. The interest has been steadily rising over the past few years and hasn't really stopped. So for you installers, there's a clear signal. More landlords, homeowners are actively looking for solutions. People like you guys who are going into properties every single day, if you're seeing condensation in the windows, it's a really nice, easy, upsell opportunity for you guys as well. And the market's obviously growing with regards to Awab's law. Now obviously adheres to time frames where you've got to install something quickly to obviously make sure the mould and condensation go away. So PIV is a really easy retrofit solution which will not only be specified in the social housing market but can be used in the private domestic market as well. And look, this is just, some reviews that we've had. Obviously, it's nice to have a review this to say it actually works in the room, but this is just other reviews that we've received to say, look, you will see a difference within 48 hours. I'm not going to read through all of them, but I purchased this after reading reviews as we had a lot of moisture and musty smells and unsure of the best way to resolve it. We have 2 Labradors that enjoy getting wet. Within a couple of days, the difference is amazing. No more wet doggy smells or any moisture on the windows, even the skylight that always run like a river. So there's a quite passionate review there, but it just goes to show it's not just, it does actually work. And those are just obviously some of the reviews to just support that, because there's some people who go, oh, does that actually work? And it's not just some salesman.
Last question, what sort of size property can you go up to?
4 bedroom.
4 bedroom. And
ideally 2 to 3 bed on the compact. Depends on the layout.
Can you just do it in one room?
No, you want to be central to the property. It's a must 10mm undercuts off finished floor level, or 20mm from unfinished floor level through the doors, because it will pass 80% relative humidity for 6 hours or more. So that's generally when we go to bed at night. And what you'll find is that you'll have all seen it. You see it in the domestic market, but you see it an awful lot in social housing, and it's heating control from 0 to 20 for an hour or more, usually twice a day, before the children get up and before the children go to bed. Moisture is held in warm air, so once that temperature drops down, the moisture is released from the air and migrates to the coldest surface, which is generally your windows or an external wall. Cold bridging is something totally different. Cold bridging is generally, in my experience, lack of insulation within the loft pushed into the eaves. So we sometimes see a band of black mould that runs around the top of a bedroom. That can be addressed by better installation practice within the property. But when we start to see mould come up, that's generally, we're producing 8 to 12 litres of moisture, generally at night. You know, we spend more time at home than anywhere else. So we're all out today working, but we'll spend more time at home. So we're producing that moisture. When the temperature drops, it then migrates and creates mould. Okay, so Vent-Axia. Vent-Axia, like James has said, we're the oldest brand in the UK. We're also the brand leader in many, many fields. Social housing, anybody do social housing here, or are you all sort of domestic installers? Social housing? You okay? So social housing has changed over the last, certainly the last 18 months. We've had legislation drive. Legislation is great. It improves quality and standards. However, some of the legislation is quite harsh that's come to light. So Vent-Axia, we are the UK's brand leader in social housing, and we produce 2 main products of 4-inch mechanical, which is I've brought along for you to see today. It's our Revive 7 and our Response 7. With AWAB's law coming to the forefront, a lot of the stuff that we'll talk about here today is coming to your market. So be prepared for that, guys. You know, it's changing. How do you work out your flow rates? Are you working it out on 0.3 square metres per floor area, or are you just working it out on bedrooms?
Or do you just pick a fan up and fit it?
Thanks. Do you know what? You're not far off wrong. So arguably the quietest fans in the market, and I'll just be quiet and you can listen. Vent-Axia uses Part F of the building regulations as a minimum. So when I said earlier on how you're working it out, there's 2 ways to work it out. You can go around and measure your floor area, and then there's a calculation that will give you what the fan should be trickling to. General disrepair, it addresses the general disrepair because it's a fan which will continuously run, and it does extract VOCs, which is, you know, properties that have got lots of scented candles and that type of thing. They're called VOCs, so they settle. I'm often amazed to see toddlers, young babies crawling across carpets with lots of automated sort of smelly candles, because all those chemicals are settling down onto the floor. And it exceeds moisture generation. So with the introduction of the Homes Fitness for Habitation Act in 2018, this was directly linked before AWAB's law. So this was the legislation that was the driver to produce the AWAB's law. Landlords are more responsible than ever for ensuring a habitable environment for their residents. Fair enough, you know, it's fair enough. So building regulations are a minimum. So Part F are a minimum, should be treated so. They should there should be no visible mould or external walls in the property. Heating dwelling with typical moisture generation. This is taken from Appendix A. Moving on. So resident acceptability, continuously improving fan technology. Having developed a centrifugal fan, which this is based off, this is an actual fan. the social housing market in the past, we found that although it works well on boost, forward curved impellers didn't move as much air at low speeds, meaning they ended up boosting more, often resulting in residents' complaints. So this is where we open up this product. So it has a tiled front cover. Why do you think we've put a tiled front cover on this? What would be one? What's your impression on that? Discretion. Aesthetics. A lot of people assume it is aesthetics. There's actually a little bit of science behind it. So within a social housing environment, the biggest complaint is for a tenant who isolates the product. So if the tenant can't see the impeller turning and they can't hear the product because it's the quietest in the market, they're less likely to isolate the product. That is a direct impact on the amount of damage that's caused to a housing provider's asset. So this is by far our most popular product in the market. Slightly more expensive than the open grill version, but it does work. So one fixing to unlock, as soon as you remove the fan, it isolates. This is a safety feature. This is capable of up to 60 litres a second. I'm not saying it will cut a tenant's finger or a customer's fingers off, but it will hurt. So it isolates. At the point of isolation, the board becomes the power to the board. It's less than 2 watts of power down here, so don't worry too much. This is actually our Mark II fan, but it's much easier for us to demonstrate to you because our new version of this fan has an internal cover which strengthens the back plate, and you won't be able to see how the components are wired. So for demo purposes, we use this one. So this will now tell me how long the product's been running in years and days. So if you fitted the product 365 days ago, I look at it and go, it's only had 12 days of use. You're not responsible for the mould and damp because the tenant or the customer has isolated the product. It will tell me how long it's been trickling, and that's more for us because we can start to work out a normal characteristic of the usage of the fan. The next one, it will tell me, I'm still on it, tell me how many times the tenant's boosted the product through pull cord, if you choose to leave the pull cord on. This is a HTP fan, a humidistat timer pull cord. We have far gone beyond tenant interaction. However, for tendering, I have to leave this pull cord on. So we advise you to remove it and wire it to core. Take it away. You don't need it. There's an argument in the kitchen if you want to clear cooking smells, then leave it in the kitchen. But certainly in the bathroom, remove the pull cord. It'll tell me how many times it's boosted through relative humidity. The total energy consumption the total energy consumption since the product was installed. And then the last one is the total energy consumption over the last 24 hours. That's a really useful one for my team because sometimes we knock on a social housing property and there's this massive delay and you're standing there like, and the tenant's running around the property unisolating everything in the property. We just go straight to that. We don't have to engage with the tenant. We don't have to say, do you isolate it? We can just look and go, that was isolated in the last 24 hours. And it's not now, which is a massive driver. And I suppose I'll give you the last thing is a lot of people are kind of skeptical about humidity sensors. So I'm going to give you a demonstration of how a humidity sensor works, or how our humidity sensor works. And the response sieving is exactly the same as this. The only difference is its maximum boost rate is 35 litres a second. So
Is that the Revive?
This is the Revive. Sorry, who said that? Yeah, the Revive. The Revive 7. So it's a 7-year warranty. Okay, so this is it trickling at normal parameters. So this will trickle for 23 hours a day on average like this. The humidity sensor is incredibly sensitive. So it detects changes and it does that every 4 seconds. So it's looking for a change in order. So I'm not going to put a lot of moisture on this. I'm just going to give it a little bit of gas. "4 seconds, starting to increase. It's now detecting a higher humidity level. It's increasing its speed to match the amount of humidity that I've put onto that sensor. Once it reaches its speed, which is roughly about now, it'll hold for about 1.5 minutes. It's now detecting a drop in relative humidity, but it will continue to hold for roughly 1.5 minutes. And during that 1.5 minutes, every 4 seconds, it's recalculating to make sure it's right. And after a portion of time, it will start to reduce its speed.
So the baby brother one, has it got the same technology in it?
Same technology. I can extend this entertaining session by another 100%. I can run through that product. Ultimately, it's the exact same. If you can set up one of these, you can set up a Rive 7. You can set up a PIV system. We use the same technology throughout all of these units.
What's the max draw on the baby?
What's that?
What's the max draw on the baby one?
Uh,
Less since it's smaller.
I'm not an electrician, but I can give you that in about
No, I meant the air draw.
35.
35 litres a second. Technically, this is only 30.
Yeah.
But if you look at the fan curve, they're very, very similar. And do you hear it starting to drop? It's now worked out that it doesn't need to run as fast. And that's why these products don't cost an arm and a leg to run. Oh, there we go. See how it just lowers it down. Back to you, is it?
Yeah, look, don't want to take up too much more of your time. It's been a good interactive session, but look, just simply why use Vent-Axia. Trusted expertise, obviously 90 years, as we touched on in the ventilation market, best ventilation brand of the year. UK manufacturing quality, so like we said, you know, long warranties on the Pure Air Cleanse. That's a 7-year warranty as well. So these are longer warranties, is peace of mind for you guys, not having to go back. And then we've got, you know, innovative solutions. We're obviously leading with, you know, compliant solutions to keep, you know, for AWAB's law, when we're talking about regulation changes, we're obviously trying to go above and beyond that. And then to remain compliant. And then again, looking at sustainable products, obviously that's a big thing in the market at the moment. Sustainably, looking at eco-friendly designs, looking at ways in which we can be even more eco-friendly. We got a recycling thing with AO that we run, where we get some of their plastics and we obviously use recycled plastic now, and that you'll see our ducting is no longer white anymore, and that's because we're using recycled plastic. So that's a big part of what we're trying to do at the moment. And then again, installer support. So from you guys, we do an NCIC approved training at our Crawley head offices. If any of you guys are interested, we can talk to you about that after. And then also we've got technical support on hand over the phone, and we've got a service team as well. So if there was ever to be any issues with any of our products, we can send our service teams out as well.
Excellent. Right. Thanks, guys. More welcome. Get some sandwiches and help yourself to a drink. We're going to have a look at some of the products now. I'll speak to the guys, get the details before they go, then you're more than welcome. But from us, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again. Thank you very much.